if retention and growth is automated by AI, where do you think marketing teams will be spending their time?
Hopefully in like Puerto Rico.
Relaxing.
Yeah, I think we've earned it. The work that we would need 5 people to do is now me and multiple tabs and a few agents. And it begs the question of what's the high leverage work that a human is doing while the agents are doing the other things.
Why do you think retention is even important though? I mean, majority of brands, you still speak to today and they're obsessed with acquisition, which is fine. I mean, it's super important. However, majority of brands are also not profitable on an order until they have their second and onwards repeat purchase.
Yep.
What's your opinion on the retention?
I think you're going to get me canceled today.
Alrighty. Eli, incredibly excited for today. I feel like this is a long time coming.
Yes,
and
it is. Yes.
The first of many of my podcasts in the US. I'm on a bit of a roadshow next week. You are someone that many people in the e-commerce world, particularly here in the US, look up to. You've obviously made your way into the technology side of things over the last couple of years, but I think a lot of people respect you because of your journey at some pretty incredible brands. Why don't you give everyone just a quick introduction if they don't know who you are today?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. My name is Eli Weiss. I think I have had this like weird start in this space where I kind of just started in a pretty junior CX role, doing customer support, making like $35,000 a year. And a lot of my kind of rise into kind of the 1% of CX has been trying to take a different path. So instead of saying like, well, Zappos does it because they're Zappos, we started kind of thinking like, why can't every brand just put the customer first and paving a way that it's not necessarily a super high cost thing, it's a giving a shit thing.
Right.
You don't have to spend a lot of money to care deeply. And Olipop was kind of my first breakout role. Lucky for me, Olipop was Olipop, but when I joined, it wasn't. It was just a crazy expensive soda brand for LA moms. And I was number 16 there, and it grew to a couple hundred employees, now doing $500+ million in revenue. So that was a blast. And then kind of progressed into Jones Road Beauty with this hypothesis of, growing up in a weird world and not graduating college, the imposter syndrome, like, oh, you just did it at Olipop. I wonder if you can do it in an area you know nothing about. So bronzer, mascara, turns out knew nothing about that. So tried my hand in skincare and beauty for 2 years in Jones Road Beauty, which was very different, bootstrapped, legendary celebrity founder. Again, kind of like CX retention, hated leaving my house. So I started writing a newsletter thinking this would be a good way to like kind of get people to know who I am without having to talk to anyone. And then kind of quarter life crisis, decided to do something really painful and hard and jumped into B2B SaaS. So it's been an absolute blast and it's great to see.
The best decision or the worst?
Time will tell. It's definitely been the most fun. I'd say like the most misunderstood thing about SaaS is, I'm sure a lot of your listeners will be on the brand side as well. The most misunderstood thing about SaaS is the complexity. Like to investors, it's like, oh, this is just like the profits incredible, the margins are great, but the complexity of higher contract item versus selling skincare online. Like to sell skincare online, you need a great brand, a great product, which sounds silly, but it isn't. And then great distribution, right? Through growth or whatever. But on the SaaS side, it's really complex because you have insane competition. You're signing 1 year, 2 year contracts. You're constantly being undercut by a crazy amount of money. It's just a very different, higher stakes, more stressful job.
100%. I think a lot of people don't realize the complexity. Equally on the brand side though, it's just a different world, right?
Yeah.
How did your time at Jones Road Beauty and Olipop shape your thinking about retention marketing?
So I think both of them had this crazy compelling product and product market fit. Olipop started as a kind of like fringe healthy soda that like LA moms were excited about, but then it went into Walmart and Target and went into really kind of like across America. It started off, it was just like Erewhon and Sprouts, and then it was like Whole Foods, then it's Whole Foods globally.
Right.
Suddenly it's in ShopRite, Kroger, I mean like across America. And you kind of fall into this incredible product market fit, but you have to like kind of start thinking about retention that way too, right? It's not just talking to people about fiber and like long-term effects of drinking healthy stuff. It's now, this is much less terrible than Coke.
Right.
And talk about the flavor. And we started leaning into mocktails and the moments when your kids are finally asleep and you can crack a can, and kind of like the Coke and Pepsi marketing, which from a retention lens is beautiful because you suddenly can tell a much wider, more exciting and compelling story to a huge group of people. The hard part is it's very, very omni-channel. So you start kind of like, we have no idea if these people are leaving us or buying us at Whole Foods. So I think that was very, very, very unique and interesting, but extremely different than Jones Road. So Olipop taught me like everything about storytelling and building a brand and starting to think about, you know, we were talking to like legendary sports teams and musicians, and you have Camila Cabello helping us launch the Walmart launch. Like it's very, very different than the makeup industry at a D2C, 100% D2C brand that's not selling in any omni-channel. And it's less about how do we get people to buy more cans? It's more about how do we get them from one category to a different category. So how do we get somebody from a bronzer to a mascara? It's a very different kind of retention storytelling. Do we focus on getting people to buy more of the same, or do we try to go across category? And 2 years in, like the biggest learning I had on the retention side was try to find out what behavior is upcoming and try to pull that forward instead of trying to create like net new behaviors. Like most retention quote unquote gurus think that they can change customer behavior, and realistically you can't. Like the best email is timed well. It's getting to the thing they want to see. Like to me, like the Wayfair idea, right? Like send 10 emails with a bunch of emojis in hopes that it'll hit. In 2 years, we won't be there, right? Because if we know what this person wants to see, if we know that this person loves mascara, try to get them to buy more mascara on a good time frame, on a good time period, because if they're not buying every 60 days, they're using somebody else's. So the timing, and in an alternate reality, we send 10 emails about mascara way before the replenishment time came. Or we send emails to try to get them to buy everything, and then they unsubscribe, and then you miss the mascara replenishment. So I think that to me,
what would you be doing if you were to pick up that role again today, now, with the technology that's in the market, your knowledge being in SaaS, and then just the changes in the landscape? What would you be doing differently?
I think AI is like obviously the biggest buzzword in the last 2 years, but for good reason, right?
And I think a lot of people until recently were thinking of AI as like this hypothetical, it's still to come.
Yeah.
And now if you're not keeping up, you're already behind.
I tend to agree. And I think like when you start thinking about, again, like the ideal case for anyone you talk to in retention is, what if I can send the right message to the right person at the right time? And for years it was a hypothetical, but today with technology we have, like AI can actually tell you that story and help you send the message. And again, personalization was first name, right? And today it's like, no, we know their entire customer journey. We know what they're likely to buy based on what they bought elsewhere. We know their time period to replenish because they bought three times already. And I think that's like the beautiful world of personalization at scale.
I want to come back to retention. You're someone that is known for the spicy takes, or I guess just telling it how it is, particularly as the landscape has changed with technology, the way brands grow. One of your spiciest takes recently has been that growth marketing is dead. And to many that doesn't make sense. But I think once you explain it, it might make a little more sense.
So it's like a matter of time before I get canceled. But the beauty of eCommerce SaaS podcasting is it never gets mainstream enough for anyone to cancel me, and growth marketers will generally...
People have to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly, right? But I think to me, you know, this came out of a little bit of spite and maybe a little facetious, but then ended up kind of like really becoming true, which was 2 years ago, everyone was like, oh, you're in CX, forget about it. Like AI is going to take your job first. And it was almost always a growth person saying that. And what was beautiful is over time, in the back of my head, I said, what if? Like growth marketing is essentially a multitude of testing, a multitude of variations, and then throwing it into a system that's essentially a black box, as much as people think cost caps versus cost controls will mean anything. It's a black box run by Meta. Meta is pushing Andromeda and Google is pushing PMax. Like what if that's the place that gets automated first? And CX, yes, like 90% of CX will be automated because it's just where's my shit, et cetera, et cetera. But the empathy has actually been slower to come on Claude than it is on like the paid on the growth guy side. So I think that's been like a spicy take that's maybe coming true.
Are you seeing any tactics of how this growth marketing engine is starting to be automated?
So there was an interesting podcast that I saw yesterday with Alex Lieberman from Morning Brew.
Right.
He was talking to somebody that's a GTM engineer. And it's like obviously the newest, hottest thing that means nothing. And he went viral on Twitter saying like before anyone ate breakfast, he created 50 ads, made 10 landing pages and blah, blah, blah. And everyone roasted him. And he went on to Alex's podcast and he shares a screen and goes through exactly what he did to do that. And with Claude Code, which you can now use like Claude Cowork, you don't have to be technical at all. Just showing how he builds ads, designs them with the Claude Figma plugin, runs them, sense checks them, tracks, builds landing pages, funnels. I mean, like we're there.
Yeah, we are there.
And CX is still not 100% AI. So one could say maybe I won this round. I don't know.
Well, I think it's becoming the reality very fast. And it's the reason why I wanted to ask it is because I tend to agree in many ways. I arrived to the US yesterday. I'm in on Tuesday. It's Wednesday. I'm in the US, sitting next to our marketing team, and they're asking themselves questions about how do we know, like, how are we getting the feedback on what graphics are working in our meta campaigns and consistently feeding that intel to designers to actually create graphics that are relevant or similar to the ones that are performing. And previously, you'd have a growth marketer who downloads all of this data from Meta. Then they've got to summarize it into a spreadsheet. Then they've got to go through and find what pieces of data, correlate to what graphic or what campaign was used. Now they have to create a mood board and summarize all of those graphics and now give it to the designer and, kind of that cycle on repeat for every day. And we have all of this data about the assets that work across regions, et cetera. And Meta is our biggest channel of growth here in the US. And we simply just ask Claude, look at all of the graphics that we've used, look at all the campaigns, look at the best performing campaigns and create me a summary of what our designer should, if they had to create 50 graphics this week, what graphics should they create? And it just spits out this mood board. It spits out what's working, what's not working, what colors you should use, what pieces, what testimonials are getting the most attention immediately. And if you're not doing that as a brand, I mean, that's as a SaaS company. If you're not doing that as a brand, you'd just be considered crazy.
I do think, like I will say, at least in the last 6 months, and I talked to probably 100 plus brands a year, I think in the last 6 months, I found SaaS to be way ahead in terms of AI usage, which is not what I would have expected. But I find SaaS teams I'm talking to are miles ahead in like Claude, GPT, even on N8N and creating agents and all of that. I found most, not all, most SaaS companies are ahead, and maybe it's because they're working in tech, so they're just like more susceptible to learning. But I think brands are, there's a friend of mine that used to work at Crocs doing like AI stuff, and he's now become like an AI consultant, and he's probably making 10x of what he made at Crocs. Just going to brands and kind of like catching them up on the basics. And it's like, how do I leverage ChatGPT at a level more than your mom would? It's going to be a strange place. But to your point on retention, it's like we're still kind of entering an email campaign builder, typing, hoping, praying that the A/B test will yield some crazy results versus like.
Well, what do you think it should be?
I mean, I think future state should be, just go rip it. Like, know my customers, all the data points, just make sure it's on brand and rip it and hope that the boss.
Do you
are
think
smart.
that a person's fear is holding them back at this point?
I think there's
I sense that a lot when I talk to brands. It's generally not the most senior founder person that they want to trial everything.
Yes.
They just want to grow, but it's I'm finding it actually to be the younger person who fears their job.
I think so, but to your point around, and it's everyone's fear, especially when they're the ones clicking the buttons, they want to feel wanted. The most inspiring people on the CX side, and I myself went through this evolution, like now everyone's using some sort of AI CX tool. 2 years ago, nobody was. 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, I was at Jones and everyone was pitching and Sienna just launched and everyone was kind of like doing their own thing. And I was being pitched this twice a week. And I was the one that said like, I don't know, like that in the back of my head, I knew I'd have to fire half the team.
Right.
And it's like, it's uncomfortable. But then over time, I was like, you know what? Let's try it at 10%. Let's try it at 20%. And it wasn't great then. Now it's getting better. I think it's two things. Number one, yes, like short-term job loss. But I think that the way you get over that is you start understanding like, what would I do if I had more time in my day and they didn't fire me? Because I can find ways that are 10 times more impactful to do this job at a higher level. And in the case of a retention person, what if I can then yield a ton of information from this new methodology and try to share that across the business in ways that I can strategize 6, 12 months ahead instead of spending all my waking hours kind of like in the back end of a tool building campaigns
What do you
with
think?
HTML.
What do you think a day of a retention marketer should look like now? Should you even need to open up an email platform?
I think it'll be similar to like what these GTM engineers are doing now, right? Like hacking through Claude and trying to like yield genuine, like like synthesize everything that you're seeing and you're doing and bring that to product development, right? If I'm a skincare brand and I'm selling a bunch of skin tints and now I'm realizing that the one time I did a limited edition of whatever, or the one product that's in a different category is doing 10x better in retention flows. And that's like when I offer that as an upsell, it's doing 10 times as well. How many brands do you think are taking that and passing it to product and say, hey, product development, can you create more of this? If I said 1%, it would probably be an overstatement. Like nobody's doing this.
No.
And they're not doing it because they spent all their day in the back end of a tool. And I think that on the CX side as well is like suddenly you're not responding to 1,000 tickets a day. You start thinking, what am I learning from these tickets and these customers? I think that's the future of retention is actually understanding like what are the levers I can pull from a brand level that can make this retention part of the business. Like the dream would be if you give any brand person, you say, I can tell you exactly which product to create that will add 50% to your LTV. I mean, everyone would say yes. The problem is you don't know where to get those inputs from. Part of it is CX, part of it is retention, part of it is CRO and site, right? Like what's converting better post-purchase, but or in cart. And I think that's like the 10x that people...
You can just have so much more insight into what's actually working in your business. And that they're the benefits once you start to adopt AI into your business. But there's still this whole world of just even much simpler, which is, like you said before, we still only use the first name in an email.
Yep.
Whereas an email, a retention email, which is meant to bring your lost shopper back to purchase, still doesn't mention the product that they've viewed, the products they've purchased previously.
Yep.
It takes into account nothing to do with how loyal that shopper is on your website or to your brand. You still offer a 20% coupon code
Yes.
to a shopper who has purchased with you 50 times before. And you update your website for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and it's someone's job at 10 p.m. at night, the night before, every single time that goes, holy shit, has anyone updated the flows?
Yep.
The emails, and nobody has, and it turns into this rush. You've mentioned previously that you feel like a brand should never, at this point, never truly need to open up Klaviyo, especially every day. What do you mean by that?
So I think to your point around flows, like flows are generally static. And there's no reason they should be that way, right? Like to your point, when you're updating the site, why am I going through this laborious process of 6 months to update every flow? Flows should be dynamic based on your store and your journey and your customer's journey. And I think that the two things, number one, like everyone's least favorite part of their job is like copying, like downloading HTML or Figma files and uploading them into a backend. Like that's everyone's least favorite part of the job. But on top of that, it's like, there are so many parts to your day-to-day as a retention manager, from looking at the flows on how they're performing to setting up the emails to fixing the flows to figuring out which flows you should fix if I'm one person at a $300 million a year.
And then there's this tree of A/B tests that are going on.
You have no clue where to
you've
start.
got no idea what's going on.
And I think that like the dream would be that you like talking about even on the loyalty side, like we know on the Yotpo side, like if we have hundreds of millions of customers that have gone through, we know the offer that you should probably give to get somebody from 1 to 2. And we know the timeline that you should go. And on your side as well, is like, you know, the right offer, the right timing, when to push. Why are you sending vanilla, kind of boring, 20% off? Bullshit.
That just doesn't hit. I also think speed always wins.
Yep.
And if you're able to experiment much faster than the competitor beside you or the competitor that's just about to enter the market, you will win.
Yep.
And experimentation is something that brands and agencies and coaching courses and et cetera talk about, and they've spoken about forever. There's a million tools out there, et cetera. However, a lot of experimentation is still simple A/B tests that run for 2 to 4 weeks at a time. That is testing just 2 variants, and it's up to a human to analyze the data at the end. And then by the time you sit down to analyze the data of what's worked, what hasn't, CEO's strategy has changed and you've forgotten about it and who cares?
Yep.
Whereas with AI now, I think, and the speed of which retention marketing revolves around your business. I mean, we see retention marketing drives between 20 and 30% of a brand's revenue majority of the time.
Yep.
And yet they spend the least amount of time and effort behind it. And now with automated experimentation, you can be trying things like simple things that a human just never would have done, like what emoji works in a subject line, what colors of a CTA convert the best, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every single day while you sleep, every shopper receives a different email. Every shopper receives a different SMS message based on who they are, how they've interacted with your website, and the experimentation that's running in the background. And I think that's the most exciting thing to come out of AI is not just being able to summarize data, but now being able to use that data to actually drive business performance and revenue.
No, I agree. I think the other kind of crazy part of this is nobody knows where to start testing, right? So if you give somebody 2 hours a week and you tell them test, or what are you testing? They'll say subject line. Okay. But now like the subject line earns the open.
Yeah.
The preview kind of helps you win that. The email has to earn the click. The click has to earn, and then the website has to earn the purchase or wherever you are in the funnel. And nobody has a clue. There's no blueprint on what to test and how to test. So if you're not going that level of scale, you're never going to know what you didn't test because you have no idea where to test and what to test. And to your point, it's like, do I test? I need a control and I need a test variant. Do I start with the subject line? Do I test the colors of the buttons? Do I test like the entire email as a whole, like the offer in the email? So scale testing, I think, is like transformative for retention teams.
Why do you think retention is even important though? I mean, majority of brands, you still speak to today and they're obsessed with acquisition, which is fine. I mean, it's super important. However, majority of brands are also not profitable on an order until they have their second and onwards repeat purchase.
Yep.
Just as one example. What's your opinion on the retention?
I think you're going to get me canceled today. So I think everyone still lives in this dreamland that at some point Meta is going to be back to what it was in 2017.
Right.
And if it's not Meta, it's going to be fill in the blank. App 11, whatever else will come next. GPT ads, which will definitely not be cheap. And I think everyone's living on that pipe dream that it'll work. And as long as I can, most brands, to your point, are not breaking even on purchase number one. But everyone believes that I'm such a Chad growth marketer that I can crack this. And retention is just this less sexy, more boring part of the business. And to your point, like most brands invest maybe a fifth, or probably less, probably like a 10th or a 20th on retention that they do on growth because we already have the customer. They'll repurchase. It's fine. And there's nothing like an email won't solve it. If they're repurchasing, they'll repurchase. But I just think like people love the gambling Vegas game and in the growth side of the business, and the more boring kind of like retention has just never come up. But it's also, it takes time to change the human behavior around it. Like growth has always been spend $1, get 5, and then it was spend $1, get 3. Now it's spend $1, get 50 cents. And we're still kind of like in that phase. But even like on the Yotpo side, all our brands are coming to us for either reviews or loyalty, and both of them are trying to like grow faster via either conversion or loyalty of like LTV. And the budgets there are a fraction of what people are spending on Meta. But for some reason, Meta feels like gambling. Like you put in $1 and you hope you get 5. But I think it's like it's taking a long while to change that human behavior.
What do you think will change it?
I think seeing like more defined retention strategies that work across every business will definitely make people feel like it's less of like a gamble and more of a strategy, right? Like you can have a business you can have 2 businesses running similar email strategies, and one will be doing phenomenal, the other won't. Now, the answer to why is because more often than not, the growth marketer is actually very shitty at their job. So they're acquiring the wrong customer. So if give you an example, I'm selling rollerblades and I'm telling people on the ad, this will take you to heaven. And turns out the rollerblade doesn't do that. It's just a rollerblade. Everyone will buy once, they'll never purchase again. Shitty example because it's not a replenishable item. But a protein bar, I say this thing will help you work out 10 times better, and it doesn't. I will get customers at 10 cents a pop, but they'll never repurchase. Now, can the retention person send a good email to fix that? Absolutely not.
Right.
So I think like so much of retention is actually inherent in the growth strategy that we hate talking about. Like the best retention parts of my life were working with incredible growth marketers. And it feels like I'm kind of like
when
slacking.
that entire funnel is just so
they're
interlocked.
acquiring the right customer. So at Olipop, when we ran ads that were talking about the long-term effect of drinking better for you beverages, the growth, like the cost per lead or cost per acquisition was higher. LTV was 4x versus when we ran ads that were just beautiful pour shots of like Coke on ice, because they bought it and it wasn't 10 times as good, but it's 10 times as expensive. So I think like working with a growth marketer that's thinking retention first will transform the business.
If retention was to fail for a brand, what do you think will be the biggest reasons why? Taking into account top of funnel acquisition, sure. AI, what do you think are going to be the biggest reasons for retention failing?
If we go back to like first principles, more often than not, retention fails when the product is garbage or missed expectations. Like more often than not, like product is either trash. Like if I'm buying toothpaste and now I'm not repurchasing your toothpaste, chances are I'm still brushing my teeth. The promise you made on an $8 toothpaste is just not there.
Right.
So again, can I send better emails to sell the value props better? Absolutely. But it's still like the product still has to be good. I'd say it's product, it's expectations, and then retention should package it all up and make sure that we continue leveling expectations. A good example of that is if I'm telling you Olipop is amazing, it's great for your long-term health. You buy the product. Now you're not sure if it's good. Now, if I keep telling you, like Ritual does on the supplement side, is they keep telling you, here's what to expect at 30 days, at 60 days, at 90 days. That's great retention, because between you and I, chances are we don't feel any different taking a multivitamin for 30 days. But if they tell me I do, there's a 50-50, I might feel better. And I think that's an example of great retention when the product is solid, but they're telling you over time, here's what to expect. Here's what you should be feeling now. And yeah.
I think that retention marketing is, from my perspective, going to become a lot more important for brands. And they're starting to realize the importance very quickly. As I said, there's so many brands out there that are rapidly growing that just have never really thought about retention marketing. They've always been great at acquisition. And now it's, part of their strategy for it to be 30-40% of their revenue, which is great. Meta's becoming expensive. Influencers are out of the budget, etc. And they're quickly realizing, hey, let's just make more cash from the people that shop with us all the time. A really good example of this is one of our largest brands in Australia, called Fate the Label. I think they work with Yotpo as well. And they're an incredible women's fashion brand and almost unheard of for women's fashion. I think like 60 or 70% of their shoppers are repeat purchasers. They almost spend no money on Meta. I don't even think they have a Meta campaign running. And all of their social content is created by the founder. It's like this incredible engine where they're just making so much profit because they've taken retention seriously from the start. Good product, number one. But number two, they actually care about their community most. Like you will get, they just care about it more. And however, I think it's going to become more important, but retention is equally becoming a lot more competitive as tools like ChatGPT, etc., become pretty mainstream to the everyday shopper. How do you think tools like ChatGPT will change the landscape or the way an e-commerce brand grows?
So at the moment, according to Adobe, as of a couple of weeks ago, 50+% of shoppers are leveraging ChatGPT in some sort of aspect of their shopping research.
Which is crazy.
Which is insane considering my mom was calling it something else until 3 weeks ago. So like this went from being a fringe thing 3 years ago to 55% of shoppers are checking ChatGPT. Now, putting aside ads for a second, let's talk about like short term. When you think about ChatGPT, there are kind of like 3 stages where you're researching, right? There's the awareness top of funnel, like which prenatal should I use? Mm-hmm. And then like, how do we show up there? And then there's secondary is like kind of like discovery in the middle of the funnel, like prenatal, this brand versus the other brand. And then there's kind of like decision making. Do they have great shipping rates or what's their return policy like. And I truly think that most brands have no clue how to show up in any part of those. Now, a lot of it is kind of like the SEO playbook, but there's a lot of nuances like ChatGPT, an agent doesn't care about your photos on your website. They don't feel loyal to a brand because they never wore the products you're selling. So they just genuinely care of what the consensus is across Reddit, across customer reviews, across Wirecutter, across Fortune articles. That's what they care about. So I think the next like 6-12 months, you're starting to think about how do we create a loyalty program for an AI agent? Or
all of a sudden loyalty is really important because it's not just some stars on a website that people scan over. It's actually influencing their decision because AI is giving them the recommendation based on that.
Yes, I think it's going to be a strange 12 to 18 months. It'll also give a lot of smaller brands the opportunity to kind of like fight their way up to the top because now it's kind of like we're starting from zero. Unless you're Nike, like all those brands in the middle are kind of starting from zero, and it's predicated on the consensus from customers, from third parties, from the metadata on your website that your product is what it is. I think it'll clear out a lot of the junk in the middle for sure. But it's a scary time. It's an evolution for sure. Like, do I think websites are gone? No. But do I think that there's going to be a shift in the next year or 2 or 3? Likely. On the retention side, I don't quite know what that looks like over time. I still think like email will be the channel for most brands. SMS likely as well to some degree. But I think it'll change dramatically when discovery is just the floodgates are open. Right now I can find if I ask ChatGPT, okay, I've been buying rag and bone jeans for the last 10 years. I'm considering something new. I have no idea what it'll send me to.
It's interesting. I mean, I think that the product pages on websites are becoming incredibly important.
Yep.
Not for the shopper, but for AI to get the information it needs. Product pages have been something brands just almost never update.
Yep.
They're static. They do it once. And a lot of the messaging is completely outdated. We see that today where a brand will go into Instant, they'll set up, they'll enter in their email address, their URL of their website, connect Shopify, and we will get a tone of voice about their brand from the product page.
Yep.
And brands sometimes hate the tone of voice or the messaging that we've got. And we quickly ask them, well, hang on, when was the last time you updated your product pages? Are they accurate? Are they up to date?
Yep.
We haven't updated that in years.
Yep.
And product pages are quickly becoming the source of truth. The other thing is just the fact that you can, I think soon or now, you can begin to advertise on ChatGPT and to be displayed as a recommendation. Now, a lot of people that are the everyday consumer, maybe even you and I, would complain about the whether that's the right thing or not. However, as a brand, would that be a channel you'd invest in?
I think the rates are exorbitant already. Like it's like
4%,
something like that. It's significant. I think it's TBD, but I think we're just gonna get to the same place where there will never be a channel that will be as profitable as Meta in 2015 to 2019. There just won't be. And if that's the case, like retention will need to evolve at a dramatic pace to keep up because like e-com is booming, but retail is back more than anyone thought. Everyone said retail is dead during COVID. That was it. But now retail is astronomical. I'd say like more than half or close to half of our Yotpo customers have some sort of omni-channel footprint. That wasn't the case 5 years ago. And it's going to be a strange environment, but I don't think like ChatGPT ads is going to fix this massive imbalance.
If retention and growth is automated by AI, where do you think marketing teams will be spending their time?
Hopefully in like Puerto Rico.
Relaxing.
Yeah, I think we've earned it. No, I think that's $1 billion.
It's been a rough last couple of years.
We certainly deserve it. Hopefully somewhere sunny. I think it's a great question. I think even now we start asking ourselves, right? Where the work that we would need 5 people to do is now me and multiple tabs and a few agents. And it begs the question of what's the high leverage work that a human is doing while the agents are doing the other things. Now, some of it is a human oversight, right? Like I feel like the agent can do it, but I need to review it. Some of it is like, what's the work I actually enjoy doing? And I think in general, if I zoom out even further, what does the world look like in 5 years? It's not for me on a couch in Midtown to say, but I do think people get to choose the parts of their life they really enjoy. I'd be good never folding laundry again. Cleaning a bathroom, like and that's in my personal life. On my work side, I can think of a lot of things I don't enjoy doing, like just like annoying tasks. And when Claude can just jump into your Excel, and I said this 2 years ago, I would be good dying not knowing how to use Excel, and it was like, oh, that's crazy, and we made it.
Yeah,
I will never know how to use Excel. Claude is good at it now, but I have like a plugin and it puts in the formula and I have no idea what it is. Like I will never do a VLOOKUP myself. And now I can say that I don't know how to do it and still be marked as safe.
I think it's been the other thing, not just on what you're doing as a marketer, but I think that some of the external agencies or exorbitant amounts of money that are spent not growing your business.
Yep.
That can now all of a sudden just be done internally, quickly, even just by yourself. You don't need to rely on, all these different people to do one thing.
Somebody tweeted that it's such a great day. They were able to hack together. They were able to vibe code their own personal Google, and it costs $150 a month in fees. And I was like, that's the future. Everyone's saying like, no, SaaS is dead.
Yeah, you're not spending $100,000 anymore to do something with an agency or with an external consulting firm.
Yep.
Or hire 1 million people.
Yep.
And I think the people that do the role today, I think they need to be embracing it because it will only make them better. They should see it as a supercharging them, really. They should be the best at what they do because they do embrace AI. I don't think I'd fear it yet. But I think that I could definitely become the best marketer, and easily the best brand.
Who was
if you embrace it.
So my CEO always talks about this. A quote from somebody that like AI won't take your job, but somebody really good at AI will. And that's how I tend to think about it, is like the people that I work with that leverage AI on a day-to-day are 10 to 100x more impactful than those that don't. But again, like if AI gets me to a place where I can go to sunnier places more often, sign me up.
I want to leave on one impactful note. If a brand should focus on one thing when it comes to retention marketing over, let's say, I think 12 months is too long of a period. So much will change, but over the next 6 months, what would you be doing now?
I'd say brands should start focusing on fundamentals, not on the output. So many brands are focusing on what is the email I should send versus what is the core strategy. Like how am I driving if I want to increase my LTV by 50% or 10% or 30%, whatever the number is, instead of thinking what email should I send next week. If more brands thought about the offer and the core and the strategy, like the strategy, the offer to get there or offers to get there, I think we would just have like a much, much more different world. And then again, scale, like what tools do I use to scale to what I have to be in a meaningful way versus the old way.
I think it's going to be very interesting. I think a lot of things are changing, and I think only the speed always wins, and only the best teams. That I just think back to, a lot of people feared Canva many years ago. They thought designers were dead. Canva's coming to kill everyone. Whereas the best people today embrace Canva in their business. And that's in the simplest of terms.
Yep.
Designers embrace it, agencies embrace it, everyone embraces it, and they win and they move quicker. And I think that we're seeing that again now with AI. If you're not using it in your team, you're already behind, whether you're a SaaS company or a brand. I think that the ability to experiment so quickly and for AI to be driving at least 20 to 30% of your annualized revenue is huge. And if it's not doing that, you're already behind. And to even be able to say that is wild. And you are only going to get more and more and more behind if you don't keep up. And I think that it's exciting that I mean, people that have been like yourself that have worked on both the brand side and now the tech side, see that and share that message. I think is why a lot of people are, look up to people like you in the world that we're in.
I appreciate it. I don't have many more tricks in this hat, so I don't know what I'm going to do next. Maybe hospitality.
The sunny places, right?
Exactly.
Work remote. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. Excited to be in New York. Maybe we'll do a lot more together.
Yes.
And
you chose a good time, good weather.
it's been crazy, right? But it's starting to warm up.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Eli.
Ciao.